guys. So welcome back. If you're new here, hi, my name's Aaliyah. This is my channel, Living with Lee. And if you are a returner, then as always, we are happy to have you. Let's just read the title and let's just get right into it. For February, I read 3 books again. I don't know what this trend is about, but spring break is next week and I plan to read so many books, and I hope that I don't have to use this clip in a future video as like a flashback as to how I didn't keep my word, but I'm gonna make sure that that's not the case, because February is the Black History Month, Black authors only. It was just like not, it wasn't an option. A little bit of a breakdown. I read 1 YA fiction, I read 1 non-fiction memoir-y. When you see the book, you'll understand why I kind of said all that. The last one was just a regular lit fic. So let's just jump into it. I can't be mad at this. This was actually a fairly good start to the month. This is about 2 sisters, as you can see on the cover. We have Camino that lives in Dominican Republic, I believe. And then we have Yahiria, who lives in New York City. And basically, long story short, we kind of follow them from 2 different perspectives at the beginning of the book. And I wouldn't really count this as a spoiler. It happens very early on, and it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the book. It's in the book flap when you try to figure out what the book is about before you want to buy it, so it's really not a spoiler. Basically, they both have the same dad, but they know nothing about each other. And that really only starts to become unraveled when their dad is leaving one of them to visit the other and gets on a plane and ends up being in a plane crash and passing away. And then from there, their lives kind of just start to unravel and family secrets kind of start to come out. They kind of have to navigate through this new lifestyle of not only losing their father, but then also gaining a sibling. And in this, they're actually Irish twins, so they're like super close in age, and it just creates a really interesting dynamic in terms of dealing with grief and loss while also dealing with the complete opposite, basically, but having to deal with those things at the same time. Yeah, this was the first book that I read in March. This is the first book that I read in February. I think it was a solid start. Something that threw me off, and actually, okay, I've had this book for a while, but when I saw this, it kind of took me off guard and then kind of stopped me from wanting to actually read this all the way through. But I figured it was, since it's YA, it's written by an Afro-Latina author, I was like, I'm gonna start my February reading with this. But what I'm referring to is that the entire book is written in the style of poetry. And like when I say poetry, actually I'm gonna do like the first or second page just so I don't give any spoilers unintentionally. The entire book is written like that. It's written like poetry the entire time, and that has both its pros and its cons. The pros would be, of course, you can read it a lot faster, but then on the other hand, it's like, okay, wait, what's going on? And then also another thing is that with the perspective jumps, at first it's 2 separate, and then it stays, okay, let me rephrase. Throughout the story, the perspectives stay separate, but eventually the author stops explaining like who's talking and when, so you kind of just have to infer based on, or you kind of just have to like be able to tell based on the characters that they're talking to, with the specific situation that they're in or referencing to, and things like that. But yeah, overall, I really can't complain. I'd probably give this a 3.5 out of 5. Now, the next book that I read for February that had that very long description categorization in the beginning was All About Love by Bell Hooks. This book, amazing. This book is amazing. Basically, if you're not familiar with it, Bell Hooks, she talks about literally exactly what the title says, all about love. She talks about love in all of its aspects, but really focuses on the way that it shows up in both romantic ways and platonic ways. It also talks about how love begins in the family and the type of effects that it can have based on the ways that we perceive and also receive love. growing up. She does talk about religion slash spirituality a little bit in regards to love, so that was also a super interesting perspective. And then at its core, what it means to engage in love as a woman, not only a woman but as a Black woman, and just looking at the intersectionality of all of these different factors and seeing how love is truly embedded in our lives, like through and through. It was really just like an eye-opening book, and I've always seen people talking about this and I always wanted to read it, and I figured, again, February, Black History Month, and I was reading it when Valentine's Day rolled around, so it just felt like the perfect time to read it. Gonna be honest, I don't have any complaints about this book. It was a great read, it was an easy read, it was an insightful read. I'm gonna give it 5 out of 5 stars. And the last book that I read for February was 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. Yeah, so this book follows two adults, Eva and Shane. So basically they're both prominent Black authors in the literary world, and they live two separate lives. Eventually they meet at a literary event, and everyone can kind of tell, like, y'all know each other and you're not fooling anyone. And basically it's kind of quickly revealed that they have a past for 7 days in June when they were teenagers, where they were fully in love, and I guess you could say it kind of was like it was each other's first love. It was kind of the one that got away type of deal, but we don't really get details early on about what happened, how they met, why they ended up having to basically forget one another and then come together years later after. But throughout the book it really does touch upon that, so don't worry, that definitely gets answered. But throughout the book it kind of just goes back and forth between them as teenagers and them now as adults, and kind of seeing how they've changed, but also how deep down inside how they still are representative a little bit of the teenagers that they once were when they originally fell in love, and then also untangling a little bit of what exactly made their first go around unsuccessful. Oh, I should also mention that Eva is a single mother. She has a daughter named Audrey, who I think is around 11, 12. I just don't have the age off the top of my head. So also, while we are navigating this love story and like rekindling of Eva and Shane, we are also seeing how Eva is dealing with motherhood and as a single mother as well, and how that intertwines with her rekindling with Shane, and like what that means to both herself alone and her relationship with her daughter. I really just love this book. It, for one, a good Black romance novel. Yeah. This is that. I feel like it had a good balance of humor while also tackling some serious topics as well. It also really touches on the idea of grief and mourning someone that's still alive, and how you kind of re-navigate your life when they unexpectedly come back into that life, and how you kind of work around that. I will say, for me personally, the ending felt a little bit rushed. Like that much. It was only a little bit rushed, but it still felt just a little bit. And it wasn't that big of a deal, but I think that's what kind of held me back from giving it a 5 out of 5 stars. And there were a few parts where I was like, ugh, this is a little cringy. But not like, nothing like, oh, Colleen Hoover cringy. Nothing like that. It wasn't anywhere near that. It was just like, can I really picture someone saying that in real life? I don't know. But honestly, with those two things, like when you move them to the side and don't think about them, this book was amazing, and it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. I would have to give this book 4 out of 5 stars. And I honestly, now listen, maybe this is controversial because I know when things get to film they can get ruined, but I really would like to see this as a movie. I don't think it would work as a show, maybe a limited series if the right streaming platform picked it up, but overall would really be interested in a movie for this. The chemistry, I've seen people debate this, that the chemistry between Eva and Shane is like not there, but I'm gonna have to disagree. Like, I felt like the chemistry was there off the bat when they were teenagers, and then when they came across each other again all so many years later as adults, the spark always just felt there. You could feel some tension and some awkwardness just because of the background that they have and kind of some things that get revealed later on in the book, but that kind of just feels like normal growing pains after you haven't seen someone in like 15 years. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it was normal. So when it's like, okay, they haven't seen each other in years, that makes sense. Now let's look at the chemistry. I feel like the maths, I feel like it makes sense. The chemistry makes sense. It's not too rushed. It's not too much at one time, I don't think. It's well balanced. It feels like it feels like real people with real emotions. It doesn't feel unrealistic. I just didn't get that at all. I got a really authentic, genuine, it was like their souls were literally calling for each other, but their physical bodies were like, we feel the way we feel because of what happened in the past. But those souls, they won. But yeah, that is all for my February reading wrap up. And just as a little preview for what I'm reading in March, I am currently reading The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Dalila Harris. So far so good. I'm about 50% of the way done. I really hope to finish it during my commute tomorrow. But the cover describes it as like Devil Wears Prada meets like a thriller, and I agree. But I don't want to say too much because you guys will see that in next month's reading wrap up. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Each and every view always means so much to me, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to comment down below any books that you're looking to read or any of the reviews that you felt like resonated with you. And yeah, that's it for now, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.